Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita series once again. And we will start with Mangalacharan prayers. I'll share the screen. These are in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, we use the one on Veda base. This is the Bhagavad Gita by His Divine Grace Abhay Charna Arvind A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISKCON, or also known as the Hare Krishna movement. All his books are available at vedabase.io. And we go into Bhagavad Gita introduction, and the prayers are here. These are the Mangalacharan prayers. So the more sincerely we recite these prayers, the better we will be able to understand the Bhagavad Gita, the better I will be able to understand and speak about it, the better the audience will be able to focus and understand it. So with that, let us recite the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. One sec. Okay. All right. So we will start with chapter 2 today. And okay. So chapter 2 is more or less a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 2 is more or less a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is called key contents of the Gita summarized. Every main topic in the Bhagavad Gita has a brief touch point in the second chapter. Now, it's not proportional. So it starts off with a heavy focus on certain topics which are essential for overall understanding. But every other topic in the Bhagavad Gita may be mentioned, some may be mentioned in half a line, in one word, in one verse, or half a verse, or so on. But it is there. So it is absolutely correct that the contents are summarized, but not in proportion. There is a heavy focus on Sankhya Yoga, the science of the soul, and on detachment from sense gratification and material objects, sense objects, which in Sanskrit are known as Vishaya. So this word Vishaya is important. It means sense objects, material objects that captivate our senses. And these days, the biggest object that takes away our senses and distracts them is what? Phones. Yes. And within phones, it is social media or whatever. You're scrolling, you keep scrolling. And it has become very powerful Vishaya. So that is the main topic of second chapter. Towards the end of the second chapter, most of the other portions of Bhagavad Gita will be summarized. We will cover those. Okay, so that is why that's a little bit on the title of the chapter. So going back to the previous discussion of chapter 1, we discussed a lot about attachments. And we said that the main cause of Arjuna to not fight were his attachments. And attachments are nothing but a cause for our suffering. So ultimately, the thing, attachments don't pain us. They don't give a problem. The problem comes when attachments become suffering. Just like we gave the example of a cigarette smoking. Attachment to cigarette smoking as such may be very pleasurable. It is hardly painful. I don't know. My dad used to smoke, and whoever else, they like to smoke. Given any opportunity, they would like to do it. So there's no suffering. The suffering comes later. So there is a difference between attachments and suffering. And in many cases, the suffering also is hidden. Sometimes the suffering is very obvious. If you have cancer, it's a big suffering. Losing a loved one is a big suffering. But sometimes the suffering is also hidden. And it comes out in some other form. So many of us may have experienced, one may be suffering due to a bad boss, but it comes out as suffering in the home. You shout on somebody else and this and that and that, but the suffering, real suffering is over there. If that goes away, then the other suffering also goes away. A very nice example of this is a splinter in the fingers or in the skin. How big is a splinter? extremely tiny, but it causes big suffering. Even in places where it is not there, in the surrounding areas. But if that little splinter, the moment it is taken out, that very moment, all of the suffering disappears, isn't it? So, the surrounding areas which are suffering are really not the suffering. The suffering could be something else. So, identifying the main suffering, the focus here is main suffering, is very important. If the problem with the boss in the office is solved, then maybe the peacefulness of the home will immediately happen. If you have a toxic boss and you're trying to apply for other jobs, the moment you get a job in another company, great. To hell with this boss. From tomorrow, I will show him. Till today, he was showing his authority. Tomorrow, I will show my authority. So immediately the suffering goes away and the house becomes peaceful, wife becomes peaceful, children become happy, everything becomes good. So what is going on? Yeah, the primary suffering is usually much narrower than the perceived or inflated size of our suffering. So in chapter 1, we saw the inflated size of Arjuna's suffering. So this is a very key aspect of the link between chapter 1 and the beginning of chapter 2. Chapter 1 was the inflated size of Arjuna's suffering. Chapter 2, in the first 8 verses, 2.1 to 2.8, minus 2 verses spoken by Krishna. So 6 verses, we will see the narrower but the most pinpointed aspect of Arjuna's suffering. I hope you're all paying attention and listening and understanding. Okay. Then those 2 verses by Krishna. Okay, that's what the title is, 2.2 and 2.3. Sometimes it takes an outsider to bring us to our senses, to identify our real problems. And let us see how Lord Krishna does that. Okay. So now we are getting into the sort of the center or the central portions of Bhagavad Gita. Well, not quite. Central portions will come with chapter 7. So now we are in chapter 2, but now comes the first words, very first words. And who is that outsider? Outsider means outside of Arjuna. So who is that outsider? Sri Krishna. So Lord Krishna's very, very first words. So very important words because these are the very first words by Lord Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So I hope all of you have your Bhagavad Gitas in your hands. If not, please try to have it from next time to have the maximum benefit of the discussion. While you are spending the time on the Zoom, better to make full use of it. So, and yeah, catching up on YouTube recordings never happens. I have a list of YouTube recordings from last 5 years that I still need to listen, make notes, and every few days and weeks that list keeps getting bigger. So now I'm thinking I will push it to my next life. So the only problem is how do I identify, transmit, carry the list with me from this life to next life, assuming I don't become a dog. So yeah, so that's why best is to focus in the class and not rely on recordings. And also make notes because our minds are not like a sponge. Yeah, like a sponge. They are more like a leaky bucket. It keeps going in and then it keeps going out also. So make notes. And notes are not another thing I heard from a very sweet devotee. Notes are not just And these are just some side points, okay, from my experience I'm sharing. And I'm no big guy, but it's a little bit experience I have, and I'm happy to share. So whatever works, please feel free to take it. So making notes is not that in future you will refer to them. That is true. You could refer to them in the future and you will. That is useful, but that's not the main reason for the notes. The main reason for the notes is to connect the hearing to the mind. And when it comes out, you cannot hear. There is no connection from the ears to the hands. The only connection from the ears to the hands is via the mind. So when you hear and it has to come out of the hands, it has to go through the mind. So that is very important. And when once it goes through the mind, it may still be there, or you may still forget. Things are there. At least you are making it go through the mind. Otherwise, there is a direct connection from one ear to the other. It goes from one, goes out of the other. That connection direct is there without the mind, right? So, and there is also direct connection from the ears to the mouth. When I tell to my children, are you listening? Yes, Papa, I'm listening. Tell me what I said. They will repeat exactly what I said. So there is a connection from ears to mind, to the mouth, but that also is not enough. One next day, if I ask them, what did I say? They will forget. So again, part of it is just a joke, but part of it is serious. Anyway, so that is the biggest benefit of making notes, that it makes you, in that moment, it makes you focused. So sit with I see some of the devotees here sitting on a table and chair, and probably with a pen in hand. And so make notes. So don't cook, don't drive, and, don't do other things if possible. And turn on your camera if possible. It's nice to see who I'm talking to, if possible. If not, that's okay. Okay. Now, 2.2, Lord Krishna's very first words. So these are very important. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a nice description of who is Krishna, who is Bhagavan. So this verse is very important because these words now are coming directly from the mouth of Bhagavan. So like we discussed last time, so many people think that if God were to come and speak to us, then, and fill in the blanks, I would believe him, I would become a devotee, I would become serious about my spiritual life, I would become less of a materialistic person or a evil, sinful person. So, well, here are his words directly spoken from his mouth. So we will read the English translation. For some of the verses, we will read the Sanskrit also, but for sake of time, we will read English. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, said, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you?" So you can see the very first words are not very, full of greetings or appreciating or some kind of encouragement. Okay, Arjuna, you are, I'm sorry to hear you have these problems. Everybody has problems. Even I had problems in my childhood. I was born in a jail. No, no sugar coating, no beating around the bush, no peanut butter, cream, jelly, direct to the point. Okay. So how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. He is calling Arjun Anarya. Anarya. Arya means a very civilized person. Not only a civilized person, but who knows the essence of knowledge, what is right, what is wrong, and so on. So he's really calling him a low class, backward person, Anarya. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So kindly keep muted. If you have a question at any time, please raise your hand and keep it raised. And if I see a raised hand, I'll stop at an appropriate time and take questions. So that is the way to have question answers. So Lord Krishna is accusing, very first words are accusing Arjuna of akirti, infamy, and due to violation of dharma. He is not saying that, any nice things. He's saying that you are not upholding dharma. You're talking nonsense. You don't know what is right and what is wrong. That is anarya. Arya knows what is right and what is wrong. You don't seem to know what is right and wrong. And then, not only that, so those were the first words which were not very nice. And now it goes from not nice to worse. Very, very stinging words. So we will read the translation. And extreme rebuke by Lord Shri Krishna. So we will see, O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. Impotence. He is punching Arjuna where it hurts the most. Why is he calling him impotent? Klaibyam is the word that is used. Because if you remember, just before the war, Arjuna was in Agyatwas, 1 year incognito. There he had taken on the form of a transgender person, what is known as a neutral gender or napumsaka. So it is not a very respectable kind of a place to be in society. Now, from today's angle, it may be completely, not politically correct and all that, but that is, he was like that. And Arjuna is the most manly person that can ever be there. He is the most strongest, intelligent, beautiful, bold, everything that one may look for in a man. And he's reminding him that, hey, you acted to be a transgender for 1 year. Has that now become your real identity, that you are like a, what has happened? Klaibyam means impotent. So have you become impotent? You have lost your manlyhood? That is like a very, a gut punch to Arjuna. And Arjuna wakes up on hearing this. And then he says, give up such petty weakness of heart. Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. So he says, hridaya daurbalyam. So Lord Krishna is calling out Arjuna's pretense. He is saying that all this compassion, I don't want to be a sinful person, blah, 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 is all nonsense. To the extent that you are lying. He's basically saying that's not where the problem is. Lord Krishna is trying to bring him to the point of the real issue, the real problem. So when it is, all this are pretentious, are false statements. So he's calling out Arjuna's lies. And it's not the compassion or something. He's saying you are weak at heart. That's the problem. And he's just, poking where it hurts. Arjuna, weak at heart? That's the last thing Arjuna is, weak at heart. And that too, not ordinary weakness of heart. Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. Kshudram means petty or of a very low class weakness, like a child's weakness. A child will fear from going into a dark room. So you turn on the lights, then he will be happy. Even in a dark room, in the protection of his house, he will not enter. So that is the level of weakness that Krishna is accusing Arjuna to. And then he calls him Parantapa. Parantapa means the defeater of enemies. So he's just saying, ऐसा ही नाम मिल गया फोकट में, you just got this name Parantapa out of, just a title. You like to be called Parantapa, and you are a exact opposite of Parantapa. So that is the rebuke by Lord Krishna. And then Arjuna really breaks down. He literally breaks down. And then in in the next verse, he reveals that, or he introspects within a moment, doesn't take him several hours or even minutes or seconds. It comes down to two people, Bhishma and Drona. That's it. That's all it comes down to. And that is why he says in the next verse that Katham Bhishmam Aham Sankhye Dronam Cha Madhusudana. O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu. Madhusudana is Krishna's name. How can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Okay, so the thought of possibly killing Bhishma and Drona for Arjuna is unthinkable, completely unthinkable. These two people are his dearmost, other than his Pandava brothers and his mother, but they are not on the opposite side. They are on his side. These two people are on the opposite side. So this is his only problem. Now, I would like to just pause for a second and make you think, is that Arjuna's real problem? So just think, we will unpack it in the next few minutes. I will leave this verse in front of you for 30 seconds and just search within it. And also I'm trying to teach you how to relish our Vedic scriptures. So search in it for those who understand some Hindi or Sanskrit, that, or even in the English translation. Okay, so we will see, we will unpack in the next few minutes what is the real issue. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do now, he has identified his suffering. Okay, so this is all very practical. Please pay attention, you might get something useful out of this discussion. So now he has identified his suffering, and the suffering is due to these two people, not due to so many others. It has been narrowed down, and that tells what are his attachments. Okay, so after that narrowing down, he is able to identify his attachments, and from attachments one can identify one's identity. Now here again I will ask the same question, and now we will unpack. What is Arjuna's attachment? Is it to Bhishma and Drona? Suffering was, yes, killing them or whatever, fighting them. What is the attachment? Is it to the people? These two people specifically? Think about it. Obviously, you cannot say something because I have not given permission to unmute. So it's okay. In a large group, it is hard. Okay, so I hope you have thought about it. Yes, Madhav Gauranga Prabhu, you want to say something? Where are you? Can you raise your hand so I can see where you are, which box? Yes, go ahead, you can unmute.
His relationship with Drona and Bhishma.
Okay, so his relationship with Drona and Bhishma? Okay, fine, good point. Anyone else wants to say something? Yes, Damodar Krishna Prabhu, and then
Bodily attachment and considering himself as body.
okay, that is little theoretical, honestly, to me. Little bit more in plain English. Okay, Shyam Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, he may think that he may not be perceived as, like a good grandson uh, or a good student for Dronacharya. Like he
Very,
may not perceive himself as that, or they may think that he's not a good student or good grandchild.
very good. So Shyam Leela Mataji is a repeat customer, so she knows
Oh,
the product. So yes, okay, you can lower your hands. So is that the, again, I'm just kidding. She's a very sincere student and a very good student. So anyway, so what is Arjuna's attachment? Is it to Bhishma or Drona? No. So let us see what was there in the verse when I said explore the verse. Okay. So Katham Bhishmam Aham Sankhye, and I did not read the next two lines purposely. Dronam cha Madhusudana Ishubhi Pratiyotsyami Puja Arhav Arisudana. So one of the key words is aham. How can I Ishubhihi Pratiyotsyami shoot arrows at them? Puja Arhav. They are worthy of my worship. So it is not about as much his attachments to Drona and Bhishma as persons, but more about how he will be known as, or in his own eyes, who is he? How can I shoot an arrow at them? How 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 can I do that? How can I do it? It's about me. Aham ishubhihi pratyotsyami. So how can I be such a fallen, such a, you know, such a ungrateful person, such a bad person? How can it's about him? So the point I'm trying to make is from the attachments, it is always about the identity. The first letter of identity is I. So try to find the I in your attachments. You may think I am attached to so and so, but try to look for the I in that attachment to something else. And then you will maybe get a glimpse of your identity. And in Arjuna's case, the identity is I am a good grandson of Bhishma, the best grandson. How can I do something to taint that that title I have earned so with so much hard work? And it's not for others. It sometimes, many times, could be within your own eyes. Or I'm a perfect disciple of my teacher. If you remember of Drona, there was another disciple who was not really a disciple, Ekalavya. But he was not a disciple. He was doing it from the shadows. So he violated that dharma of Guru Shishya Parampara. And he was more skilled than Arjuna, much more. And there's a separate story of how Dronacharya took care of that and all that. So, but his pride was, I am the perfect disciple. So this is the I am a family. And in the other things also, it's about all about him. I am this, I am that, I am compassionate, I am not greedy, I am the protector, I am pious, I am this, I am that. It is never about them. It is always about the I. So For those who have big problems, big suffering in their life, they can identify a big I. Those who are happy and are not suffering, I will keep repeating this, they will have a small I. And in the future, then you can come to YouTube and listen to it again when you are having big suffering. Till everything is happy, then it's very hard to identify the I. It is so tightly covered. And just a little bit more on the identities. One can have multiple identities based on time, place, circumstance. It can change, it can evolve. Like, just by age, from being a good son to being a good father. So I used to take pride in being a good son. Now my dad is no more, but still I feel now that has becoming into a father. And my father also was a very nice father. So now I am trying to beat him in the race. He was a good father, and now I know what a good father the baseline is. I will try to beat it. I will be the best father. So it's all about that. And how it can change or evolve by association, by knowledge, by our actions, experience. Like my father set a pretty high standard for being a good father. And now I tried to beat it. I don't know if I beat it or not. I think I beat it. Why? Because I am a damn good father. Why I'm a damn good father? Because I am. You want to challenge me? You want to have a debate with me? How good father I am? I will defeat you. You can give me 10 points, I will give you 100 points. Nobody in the world will be able to defeat me. You see, now my identity is speaking. That is how identity speaks. So like that, one should identify the identity. So it is one way. Another way to identify the identity is if somebody pokes you. If somebody tells me you're not a good father, then you see my real Rakshas will come out. My real monster. I will tear that person to pieces. So, my real monster will come out if somebody tickles me on my sensitive, these are called the buttons. You must have heard, press the buttons. So Lord Krishna pressed Arjun's buttons, and Arjuna got disoriented and he crumpled. So that is the first step, is to identify our identities. So that is what we were saying so far. Step one was, where do you say? Very long back. Step one, identify the suffering. From the suffering, you go backward to attachments and then to identities. And then step two, when we identify our identity, and situations will come when that identity is challenged. And there is nobody to tear apart. If some person comes and tells me I am not a good father, I will tear him apart. But let us say if my children stop talking to me, or something happens, they stop loving me. Like I was telling the story of Ronald Reagan last time. His problem in life was he did not have a good relationship with his son. His son hung up on him. Nobody hangs up on the president, he said. Anyway, so part of the identity could be I am the president. But anyway, then when the situation is presented by life and the identity is shaken up, you are told that, then you begin to think, what did I do wrong in my upbringing of my children? Where did I not be a good enough father that today I have to see this day? Wouldn't you question that? Where did I go wrong? Or where did I not do enough? Or whatever, XYZ. all material solutions fail. You keep thinking, and you see around and you see, yeah, I did everything. Everything I did. And yet this happened. Or in Arjuna's case, he is faced with this situation. Then one awakens to taking spiritual shelter when no other answer remains. Then, till the point there are answers, then people keep taking those answers. Because when all answers fail, then one turns to a spiritual authority. And that is what happens in case of Arjuna. He is just questioning, how did I end up in this situation? We were such good brothers. Even 5 small villages we couldn't get. Or what did we do wrong? Dhritarashtra, he couldn't override. He loves his children so much, I agree, but now he is ready to sacrifice his children. He could have just given 5 villages and stopped this whole world war. Why? And all these questions come up. And then one takes spiritual shelter. And in Sanskrit Vedic texts, a big change of mood occurs. So going from taking material shelter to taking spiritual shelter is a big change of mood. And typically when there is a change of mood that occurs in Sanskrit, there are other reasons also, but the change of chanda or meter also occurs. So in Sanskrit verses, so far, all the verses were Anushtup Chanda, and we can do a different class, and I have done small classes with some devotees on Chandas. It's very beautiful. Chandas are very beautiful, and they help us quite a lot to understand sort of the mood, and also to memorize, remember the verses, and also to sing them. Our acharyas could have very well written these Sanskrit texts in prose. They took the extra effort to put them into chandas. I know a very senior Vaishnava by the name of Hari Parshad Prabhu, and he writes shlokas in very complex chandas. And I asked him how long it takes you to write this, because the thought is there in his mind. He could write it in prose. And for simple ones, he says, maybe 5-10 minutes, but he constructs some of the most complex shlokas, brand new. And sometimes he says it takes days. But that is his meditation on the topic, on the mood, on everything, and he packs everything into it. He's one of the greatest Sanskrit scholars walking on the planet today. So if you ever get an opportunity, do, seek his Sangha. Anyway, so a very somber mood. Arjuna never faced such humiliation at his own hands. So now we will, and not Arjuna's real problem, but his real suffering. So identity is, I am a good grandson. Attachment is to Drona and Bhishma. And the suffering that he has is captured in this verse 2.6. I don't know what to do. Somebody could just, if he could just, he just was, and there is this beautiful line. Na chetad vidmaha kataran nagariyo. That I don't know what to do, what is good for me, what is not good for me, and what to do. So, nacha kataran, what to do. Vidmaha means to know. So, I just don't know what to do. And in a certain sense, all the previous arguments were a form of escapism. We all want to escape. So that is his real problem. His real problem is his identity, his attachments to Drona and Bhishma. but also that he is just completely clueless as to what to do. And therefore, in verse number 2.7, a very important verse so far in the Bhagavad Gita, I think for Bhakti Shastri, maybe this is a memorization verse, I don't remember. Even if it is not called as a memorization verse for the test, so Bhakti Shastri students take a test. You have to memorize verses and reproduce them without in a closed book format. So it causes the meditation into the verse. And one of the good ways of memorizing a verse is through the meaning. Okay, so try to understand the meaning of the verse. So anyway, so in the room here, we could do lead follow and recite this verse because you don't have permissions to unmute. So very important verse, even if it is not for memorization, you should memorize. Very important verse. कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. Very nice. So we will unpack the meaning of the verse, but this verse is in the meter Indra Vajra. And it has 11 syllables per line. Anushtup has 8 syllables per line or pada. 4 padas typically make a shloka. So here also 4 padas or 4 lines, but each pada or each line has 11 syllables. And we can count, and there are certain breaks. And there are many tunes to sing a verse of a particular meter. So all this is Chanda Shastra, very, very nice and sweet to understand. Anyway, so what is Arjuna saying? Sammudha cheta. Cheta means in my heart or in my mind. Sammudha, I am confused. I am completely confused. And he's saying, Prichhami tvam dharma. Please tell me, tvam, I'm asking you, my dear Krishna. Please tell me what is the right dharma. And he's saying, Karpanya dosha. Karpanya dosha means, Srila Prabhupada translates it as miserliness, but miserliness means like a piteousness, not, there's another meaning of karpanya, like being piteous, like completely helpless. Piteous, like bheek mangna, like begging. So he's saying, I'm like a beggar. And I am asking you this, and tell me, yat shreyasyan nishchitam. That shreya means what is beneficial or what will bring me, what is better for me. Nishchitam, certainly. Bruhi tanme, I am asking you. And last line he says what? Shishyaste aham. I become your shishya. Please accept me as a shishya, means disciple. So directly he is accepting, or he is requesting Lord Shri Krishna to become the guru. The opposite of shishya is guru. So he is saying, I am becoming a shishya, and then next he says that Shadhimam, please teach me or tell me the above, which is what is good for me. I am confused. What is dharma? What is adharma? Please tell me all this. Tvam prapannam. Prapanna means to take shelter, to submit, to surrender. I fall at your feet. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. So he is taking the position of a completely surrendered completely sheltered soul. So that's the English translation. Now I am confused about my duty. And I have lost all composure because of my miserly weakness or my piteousness, my pitiful situation. Please see my pitiful situation, and now it's your duty to be compassionate on me. I was trying to be compassionate on these people, thinking I am somebody who can be compassionate, but I realized I am weak at heart. That is my real problem. You tell me what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So that is what is going on. So please understand the situation of Arjuna. And if you see so far, Lord Krishna did not say anything encouraging. In fact, if at all he said something, it was something very discouraging. दो चार बोलते हैं ना, भिगो के लगाया. क्या बोलते हैं? भिगो के मारा. क्या मारा भिगो के? कि क्या बोलते हैं? कटाक्ष और what do you say? Satire, ridicule. That's all he did. And he called Arjuna weak-hearted. And you are just lying about your problems. Your real problem is you're a weak person. Calling Arjuna weak is a big deal. It's like, trying to say like to somebody you are not a good husband, not got a good employee, even though you are slogging your guts out and you be told you are not a good employee. It's a very big blow to your identity. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada has given a very detailed understanding of the importance of approaching a guru. So please read that. And that is what Arjuna is demonstrating practically. And Lord Krishna also is demonstrating. It is not just Arjuna. Otherwise, Lord Krishna in the middle of chapter 1 itself would have started giving instructions. That is called free advice. Even Krishna does not give free advice, only when asked. In Hindi, there is a saying, right? क्या जब तक बच्चा नहीं रोता तब तक माँ भी दूध नहीं पिलाती. Unless a child cries, even a mother does not pay attention to the child and give him milk. So you have to call for the attention. You have to take shelter of a guru. Otherwise, also it is said Guru is not just supposed to give free. He is not Jagat Guru. Guru, we give the title out of our praise for the Guru, but the Guru never thinks I am Jagat Guru. In our heart, we can think Amar Guru, Jagat Guru. My Guru is Jagat Guru. But the Guru never acts as Jagat Guru, which means, going and spewing instructions to everybody, only to his disciples. So therefore, otherwise, there is Chaitya Guru in everybody's heart. Chaitya means in the heart. And that is Paramatma. He will guide. He is Jagat Guru. So even Krishna is not acting here as a Jagat Guru. Only when Arjuna surrenders, then Krishna will immediately start speaking, which we will see very soon. So that's a very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada on the importance of the approaching a guru and the role of a guru. So, and the role also of a external guru. Many people, Srila Prabhupada focuses on this point in the purport. People think, oh, I have Chaitya Guru. So I have Guru in my heart, which is Paramatma. So I don't need Guru. Okay, fine. But we are not tuned to listen to that Guru. That Guru is speaking on a different frequency. Okay, you don't have the radio circuit to listen to that frequency. So even though, yes, he is speaking, you are not able to receive it. Therefore, we need a guru who can speak on the right frequency. And in more, this is more just humor, but in real terms, a Chaitya Guru speaks But he has been speaking from time immemorial. How much have we listened? Even the hardened criminals have Chaitya Guru in their heart. Why are they not listening? So there are hardened criminals, but we are also softened criminals. Little small criminals also we are. Why we are not able to listen? So it is a fallacy that we don't need Guru. You need a external in-person Guru. Okay. So that point is very important. Even Arjuna, his frequency was tuned. He could have listened to Chaitya Guru, but still he accepted the same Krishna, sure, as external Guru. And one can say, oh, for him, Chaitya Guru and external Guru are same. But that is only in Arjun's case. So many other devotees needed external Guru is there common in everyone, and not Krishna is the external Guru of everyone. Dhruva, small boy, Narad Muni was his Guru. For Parikshit Maharaj, he was, also shaken up. And Shukadev Goswami came as his Guru. So many devotees are there, and there are external gurus who come and give the guidance. So it is nonsense to say that I don't need Guru or I have Guru inside my heart. So Srila Prabhupada speaks very strongly about that. Okay. Okay, we have a couple of hands raised. Prithvi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
You can call me Prabhuji, not Guruji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I'm not anybody's Guru. And we just had that discussion. So definitely not. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. I just wanted to clarify with you on the understanding. First of all, I want to say that the first few minutes in the class today where you were talking about identifying what is that we are attached, right? And I think that part is so beautifully explained. I think it is giving me a reason to go think what are my attachments? Where is that coming from? But you also mentioned it is that suffering is is probably leading people into actually took notes just to make sure I'm not saying is leading into taking shelter of spiritual authority. So I wanted to understand from you today, so is it only suffering that can lead, if there is a small child that is also probably, with self-motivation coming towards spiritual authority, or as parents, if we are trying a small child?
So suffering is the usual cause.
Oh, okay.
And is the strongest cause.
Okay.
Okay. But out of no suffering also it is possible.
Okay.
Yes. Just like in sports you might have seen or whatever. I don't know. There are all these kind of stories. Some child in his childhood falls down and somebody tells him you can never run. And that person gets so hurt. Then he says, oh, I will, become a big runner or whatever. And then, so sometimes suffering is a big propeller. Okay.
Okay.
But that is not the only reason. And in many cases, it could just be motivation or it could be past samskaras. Now, becoming, knowledgeable or sports or whatever is largely material. But from a spiritual angle, it is a much stronger influence of our past life as well. But in any case, suffering is a strong propeller, but it definitely can be through other motivations. But sometimes it is weak, or many times that is weaker. So, one, it is good to be aware of this and remind oneself that not to take things for granted and not to take it lightly, spiritual life, because material life is very strong and our attachments could come back at any time. And so many times I have seen personally people who are suffering, they come to Krishna and then they get some relief, whether the actual suffering is gone. or they come to terms with it and become happy and then they leave. Many people stay also. Okay, and then many people, much higher percentage, just come out of motivation, curiosity, and they leave little sooner than those who suffered. Now many stay also, but I'm just saying that suffering is a strong motivator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Roma Mataji or Raman Prabhu, which one? Wait, hold on. You removed your hand. Okay, there you are. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
And my question was regarding the second step. When we say that the first step was like identifying the suffering and attachment, and the next was taking shelter of a spiritual authority. So is it like based on our svabhav that we take that step? Because sometimes people also go tangential, right? If they identify this is the suffering, it's not that always somebody takes a spiritual authority. So is it
What
based
I'm-
on our gunas or svabhav?
Yeah, this is not a natural progression. When I say step 1, step 2 is not a natural progression. It is what I'm saying, step 1 as shown by Bhagavad Gita and step 2 as shown by Bhagavad Gita through the example of Arjuna. It's not a natural progression that when one suffers, somehow naturally one begins to turn towards spiritual solutions. That may be the case, but if one is not aware at all of spirituality, he may continue to look for material problems. Having come in touch with Bhagavad Gita, I am just indicating what is the recommendation of Bhagavad Gita shown by the example of Arjuna. But it is by no means natural. The natural part was the other one, which actually I am going to show in the next couple of slides, or just a recap, how identity, how naturally there is an identity in our body or in our whatever being or consciousness that leads to attachments and that leads to suffering. That is a natural progression or a natural cause and effect relationship. Identity causes attachments, which causes suffering. That is natural, but once there is suffering, one may or may not go to a spiritual direction. But having come to know of Bhagavad Gita, one should understand that that is the best solution. Okay? Did you, yeah. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. So does it mean that Arjuna was a pure devotee and that is why he took the spiritual shelter? It kind of indirectly tells us his character and because the same thing was also his weakness because he did not want to, he was like, how can I do it kind of, right? So he was so attached to that. But the same thing motivated him to take the shelter of Sri Krishna.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So that much was there. Knowledge that, yes, I have Sri Krishna with me. Best is to take his shelter. Duryodhana was also suffering all his life, even though he was the one trying to kill Arjuna, but internally he was suffering. What was Duryodhana suffering, Mataji? Why, can you tell?
Envy was too attached to himself, like this is mine.
What was his suffering? Can you verbalize his suffering?
His suffering was he wanted everything for himself. He did not want to let.
I'm not really hearing suffering in that.
He thought it was inferior.
He was too attached to his own.
Here in the room, Prabhuji is saying he was always of the thing that I am inferior to the Pandavas. And the whole world also thinks I am inferior to the Pandavas. They always praise Pandavas. Nobody praises me. And if you read Mahabharata, you will see he heavily bribed people. When the Pandavas had gone to the Vanvas, 12 years plus 1, 12 plus 1, he heavily bribed them. He would give them free gold, free this thing, that thing, to turn all the citizens to, because everybody knew Duryodhana is a rascal and Pandavas are good. Now they are out of the scene. And then he was giving so much, like, in modern world also we do, government to get elected, they will take taxpayer money and give it free, whatever, free, take money and give me votes. So instead of, putting them into more, useful things, maybe whatever, I don't want to get into a political discussion, but yeah, this freeloading. So Duryodhana also did that to become popular, so that was his suffering. People don't like me. I am inferior in so many respects. And that was the thing that used to eat him from inside. And he could also have taken shelter of Krishna, but he did not have that intelligence. Or his identity was so strong that it prevented him to take shelter of anyone, let alone Krishna, anyone. He could have taken shelter of Bhishma, of Vidura, or Drona properly, and they would have advised him, my dear child, you are going on the wrong path. You should mend your ways. And had he listened, he would have become very happy. So that was Arjuna versus Duryodhan. I forgot how we came to this point, but what was your question?
Yeah, Prabhuji. So the point was ki, Arjuna had attachment. On one side, attachment was on the negative side, which was pulling him down and not letting him fight. And the
Yeah,
other attachment was towards
shelter of
Krishna.
yes.
Yes. So that actually brought him out of the
Yes.
situation.
So forget about Arjuna, Duryodhan. At least all of us right now, we have what, 70 people on the call. You are listening. And right now, I'm telling you, take shelter of Bhagavad Gita. You all heard it? Everybody heard? Okay. So now you cannot say, I did not hear. So if at all you have, maybe nobody told Duryodhan. So you cannot claim nobody told you. Directly, I'm telling you, take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, whatever problems you have. So now it is meaningless to discuss why he took shelter of Krishna or not and all. At least you all know that taking shelter of Bhagavad Gita is the best solution. So take it instead of trying to overanalyze it, move forward. That is the learning. Okay, so and some people may have different faith. They may have faith in whatever else, that not Bhagavad Gita, but whatever, how to become a good leader, or all these management self-help books. Then go take help of those books. You are in the wrong class, that's all. Go take a class on the other one. But in this class, I am inviting you to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita. So that is the second step that we are discussing, 2.7. Okay. Yes, Prasun Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, Arjun, when he took the shelter of Lord Krishna, before that he had gurus like Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya. But eventually, when he took the shelter of the Supreme Lord, he actually even killed his gurus. I mean, he was instrumental in the killing of his
Yeah.
previous gurus. So, I could not understand. I mean, uh, at what point of time, he decided that his gurus were standing against dharma. Obviously, Krishna was his guide at that point of time. But I mean, as humans also in today's world, I mean, at what point of time, do you stop listening to the guru? I mean, do you do everything that he does, that he says? Because we see a lot of instances where the guru is not right. I mean, we see a lot of things in the society today where the gurus are also doing wrong things, and a lot of followers have started doing the wrong things under their guidance.
So, or I think I got the question. So, first of all, Lord Krishna is the perfect guru. And when we are saying guru, the assumption is that the guru is perfect. Okay. And that is why we discussed the Guru Shishya Parampara. So, somewhere or the other in the modern day or age, we do have instances where gurus may not be perfect. And that is why we have to take shelter of three things: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And out of these three, Shastra is the most important because that is written in black and white. literally black and white. Okay, Guru, if the Guru is pure or what is known as a perfect Guru, then he will also say black and white. But what you were pointing out is that, there are the problematic scenarios, and then you will hear other things, non-black and white, you will hear a whole bunch of gray. So you must compare it with the black and white in the Shastra, and for that you must know the Shastra. Many gurus are there who say, don't read Shastra. I will tell you what is there in the Shastra. You should not. In some cases, they even say it is wrong. It is an offense to read Shastra. That itself is a red flag. Now, that I am telling you today in this class, you have to believe it. Okay. And all I can do is point back to Shastra to say that. So it is a circular reference in computer science terms, a self-referential pointer. Typically, the kernel panics or the software panics when it sees a self-reference pointer. It's not a good thing in software, right? But that is why Shraddha comes, or the axiom which we discussed in the first class. So if you go to chapter 16, last verse, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Akarya Vyavasthitau Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iharhasi. So that verse, last verse of it starts with Tasmat. There itself, you should, all your flags, radars should become tuned. Tasmat, keyword. I must focus on this verse. Shastram Pramanam Te. Lord Krishna is even saying that go by Shastra Praman. So we must know Shastra, and then when we see, and if we see some gray statements, if somebody is saying don't read Shastra, that itself is a big red flag. Other red flags are if there are some serious deviations from Shastra, then you should politely, humbly question and use your intelligence. Intelligence should not be kept on the shelf. It should be kept inside your brain and used. And you should politely ask, how do I reconcile? Shastra says so and so, you are saying something else. How to reconcile? And if you do not get a proper answer according to your intelligence, if you are not satisfied, and if this happens more than once, multiple times, these are all red flags. And at a certain point, you have to see what to do. Okay, but a perfect guru, you will find zero red flags or zero such instances, and you keep going. And so Shastra is an essential part of the Guru's teachings. Guru almost always walks with Shastra in his hands. Okay, so Shastra should be an essential garment of the Guru. Okay, so if he is not having Shastra in his hand, or it may be in his mind, like Hari Parshad Prabhu, so many Shastras he just carries in his head. So that's fine. So you need to carry the Shastra, and you need to speak from Shastra, and you need to justify from Shastra, and everything should come from Shastra. And the primary Shastras for Bhakti are Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So I hope that is answering your question.
So three things.
Yeah, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Sadhu means somebody, a very perfect person, but whom you have not accepted as a guru. He may be someone else's guru or so on. So you can learn from all such devotees, pure devotees. It doesn't mean if you have a guru, now you have closed your doors to all other similar people. Okay. In PhD, you may have a guide. He is your PhD guide. He gets the title of being your advisor, thesis advisor. But it doesn't mean you cannot sit in the lecture of other professors who are, and there may be your guru may be in a particular area. Let us say he's expert in Bhagavatam, but maybe he's not expert in how to do deity worship. And so you can go to someone else. So, in physics, you may be doing quantum optics. I don't know, I'm just constructing quantum electro-optics, dynamics, chromo, blah, 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 all these things. But then you can go to a different person who is into, I don't know, something totally different, how aeroplanes fly, whatever. which has nothing to do with quantum stuff. Both are physics. Okay. Prasun Prabhu, so does that, I don't know where you are. Right there. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Ji Prabhuji, thank you.
Then Shrikar had raised the hand, and then we'll come to Krishna Murari Prabhu. So Shrikar.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Prabhu, I really liked what you mentioned about how like what I understood from what you said is that Arjuna surrenders onto Krishna, and he chooses Krishna. I mean, he doesn't choose Krishna as his guru. He completely surrendered. He's confused and he surrenders unto Krishna. And that's like a major difference between him and Duryodhana. Because Duryodhana, you talked about how he didn't really there was at no point which he completely surrendered onto anyone. So that's I really liked that point. I have two questions. How does Arjuna know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is this mentioned somewhere in the Mahabharata, or does he just know? That's my first question. I can state the second question after the first question.
Knows that Arjuna knows that Krishna is the Supreme Person, or he is Bhagwan. And in many, many conversations, it has been confirmed. For example, one of the conversations that I am recalling is that when he was fighting with Lord Shiva and to gain the Pashupatastra, and at that time, um, um, Arjuna realizes who he is fighting against is Lord Shiva. So he surrenders to Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva also, recognizes he is devotee of Lord Krishna, and they have a very nice and sweet conversation. So there it is confirmed that through that conversation that Lord Shiva is recognizing Arjun to be a devotee of Lord Krishna.
So this
And
was when Arjuna went to the heavenly planets for some period of time to get some training, right? Or something.
well, he was going in the forests, and then he happened to see this boar, and
Oh, okay.
they both shot the arrow at the same time, and Lord Shiva claimed that his arrow hit first, and Arjuna claimed his arrow hit first, and then they both fought over whose whose property it is, whatever that was killed, and then they have a fight, and then ultimately Arjuna is defeated by Lord Shiva, and he cannot believe that he got defeated by anyone. And then Lord Shiva reveals his identity, and um, and then they have that conversation. So it's not
Okay.
planets, but yeah, on wherever he was in, yeah.
So Arjuna's never had
But in the
he's
Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes, you can see in chapter 4, I can find out the verse that Lord Krishna put him into temporary illusion,
okay,
and
got it.
so that the Bhagavad Gita can be spoken.
But then at a later point, Krishna reveals his universal form, and Arjuna is then bewildered, and then that entire.
If you read the purport by Srila Prabhupada to 4.4, chapter 4, text 4, and
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport in the very beginning, the fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjuna inquires on this point as if he were himself not aware of the
Asking for
personality
himself.
of Godhead Krishna. Okay.
Yeah.
As
Thank
it
you,
will be
Prabhu.
evident, now Srila Prabhupada continues, as it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything, and the last word in transcendence. And many other places also Srila Prabhupada has explained that he was put into temporary illusion so that
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita can be spoken.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
What was your second?
Yes, so my second question is, you mentioned the importance of like Shastriya Shraddha and how we should uh find a guru who represents Shastra, right? Being the topmost authority.
Well versed in Shastra.
Sorry?
Who is well versed in Shastra?
Who's well versed in Shastra, right? So generally I've had this
Siri,
question.
stop. Hey Siri, stop. We have this little.
Oh. Yeah, so Prabhu, so basically in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. So I was talking to some friends, and basically they were telling me in order to judge the qualification of a guru, we should determine we should try to find someone who is, I mean, Prabhupada says we should ideally take shelter from a guru who's in Uttama who's a Uttama Adhikari.
Yes.
But also these 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti, like how well they use their time, their perseverance, detachment, like enthusiasm, like eagerness.
The question,
I mean,
how to find a guru? Is that your question?
More specifically, how do we find yes, how do we find a guru, but how do we find specifically these symptoms? Like oftentimes it's hard to judge, and practically it's very hard to judge.
You don't have to look for 9 symptoms or even 2 symptoms. Okay. And we don't have much time to go and do a complete evaluation. Even you have gone through college, they give you 1 month, right?
Right.
April 30th or whatever, April 1st, the results are announced, which colleges you got admission. On May 1st, you have to select the college, give the final acceptance. They give you
Right.
1 month to select the college, right? So
Right.
not a lot of time, just taking a material level example. And similarly, there are many ways, and one of the best ways is to listen to the guru and listen for a period of time and try to see that is the guru really impacting your internal mood, or is really impacting the answering the questions that you have. It is not even that you may even be able to ask them questions. You have questions, and just their speaking answers your questions and convinces you. And there is a lot of shastriya shraddha in the guru.
Mhm.
So that itself is very, very powerful to connect with a guru. And of course, you should also, so hearing is the main thing, the absolute main thing. And hearing what from guru? Hearing shastra from guru. Okay,
Right.
not just some random topics, how to become successful, how to calm your mind, and just like a rambling on it. If there are not
Right.
10 quotes from Shastra during the how to calm your mind talk,
Yeah.
like that. If you look at Srila Prabhupada, look at his purports. Is there any purport you can find somewhere which doesn't have some quote from some other Shastra, or some other Shastra name is not mentioned, or in he may not actually give a quote, but he will say in Shvetashvatara Upanishad it is said, blah blah blah. He will give a English version. Almost
Right.
more than half of his purports have that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the second thing is that they walk their talk. So whatever there's, and you don't have to go to the level of the 9 symptoms of bhava bhakti. One of the very clear symptoms is anya ninda, the criticism of others. So that is a very, very big point. And somewhere or the other, people will slip. So if you see criticism of a person, of a specific, not of a philosophy, It is perfectly okay to criticize a philosophy, that you criticize in general materialists, see those materialists, but they will never say, see that person. It is up to you to add two and two and say, oh, he may be, or this person fits that description of a materialist or a Mayavadi or whoever. So, Nindadi Shunya. So that is, zero ninda of others. So these are some symptoms which you can see, and they are walking their talk. And um, yeah, so you can identify. And by the way, that should only be for the purpose of selecting or finding a guru. Nobody made you a judge. You should not write a
Right.
journal or a blog post on, here is
Right.
analysis of these 5 gurus, and go, let's have a debate. So
Right.
all that is very offensive. Don't do that.
No, I really appreciate the onion and the point that you mentioned, because it's really important to, I mean, even if, like, let's just say someone is preaching like some impersonalist philosophy, you should like invalidate the philosophy but not the person. That way you're not offending the person, but you're just the philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
And how to find a guru is a very big topic. So we can have, I just gave a small glimpse. It just scratched the surface. There's a lot to be said, and it cannot be covered in a Q&A.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lower your
Thank you
hand.
so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Krishna Murari Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. My question, your point that surrender with intelligence, don't surrender your intelligence. I got that point. I got that point clearly, Prabhuji. But many times, very respectful to gurus in the moment. I'm greatly respectful to them. Many times they also have to transgress dharma for a higher dharma. I can give examples. They also have to transgress shastra for a higher dharma or for pleasing Prabhupada or service required. So where we can draw that line?
Without names, like generally.
I will not take names. Yeah.
Huh?
So
I'm not
where
following.
do we?
That's why I'm asking. They have to transgress Shastra in some way. I'm sensing that they have to, ignore Shastra or speak against Shastra.
Yes.
Is what the sense I'm getting, and I'm not
Yes.
understanding. So please, if an example or
I'll give you an
a hypothetical scenario without names.
I will never take names, Roji. So the candid thing is, like, some temple, some people had taken up the premises and they had to fight and do some illegal means to take them out from the premises. People were occupying our premises. So they had to transgress Shastra and do that. So my point is, sometimes, many times, in practical scenarios,
Transgression of Shastra there, what is the transgression there? I'm not
so the
following.
transgression is they had to legally fight that case in courts. They could not have used their own weapons and done that. They should have fight that case in courts. In India, to fight in courts, it would have taken years or decades. To say Prabhupada's property, they did something to get the property back, which was not
They sent
purely,
some gundas or something.
yeah, something like that. I will not give you a specific, but something like that was done. So, in fact, even much more was done. And
Okay.
then I was called in to help them, because as a lawyer, that was my duty. I wasn't, because of course somebody saw I at the spiritual masters platform as calling you and asking you to do that service. Then I wasn't whether I'm following dharma or not. So there are many examples like this which come in my life as a lawyer, which are in the gray zone. It's not white, not black. And then at that time, whether we should consider following this instruction which is coming to you, or the guidance is coming to you, and do the thing, or we should not, because there is one way you are transgressing dharma very clearly. And whether they still continue to remain guru at that point, because they are doing for Prabhupada, that is for clear. There is no doubt in that, absolutely no doubt about that. But then there is a transgression of dharma which cannot be ignored, frankly cannot be ignored.
So, okay, I will just say this, that illegal activity as per the law of the land,
yes,
should never be done. Never. That line should never be crossed. Ever. And I have been in situations like that myself, and without going into details. And I have been in contact with very senior lawyers who are Prabhupada disciples themselves, and taken guidance from them in the past. And they also said this was not correct, what was done. And violating the law of the land is just not an option. It is not an option. I cannot say that any more clearly. Again, as far as you want to listen to me, and you are welcome to listen to others and make your own mind. But I don't think anybody can deviate me from this understanding ever, that violating the law of the land is not an option. Literally, no corner cases, no exceptions. And even in the Juhu case, Srila Prabhupada, I don't think ever violated the law. And we have some nice disciples of Giriraj Maharaj here who can attest to that. That never did anything. He fought the case in the court to the best of his ability, but that was within the confines of the law. But he did not take law in his own hands. And this other thing about, I don't know about, everybody has their own experiences, but in the name of Srila Prabhupada, I'm doing for Prabhupada, and say whatever you do, anything and everything, and call it as I'm doing it for Prabhupada. I don't know. Prabhupada never, after 14th November 1977, everybody lost the ability to know what Prabhupada wanted, right? That was the day of his departure. So I don't know how they know that this is for Prabhupada. So, and also, even if he has said in some one case to one devotee, it was for that in a letter or in a room conversation or in a morning walk. It is for that particular devotee, that particular situation. And it cannot be generalized. What he has written in the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, yes, those can be generalized, but where it is written anywhere that you can break the law, if there is one line like that in the purports, please show me. So that can be analyzed. But otherwise, I am sorry, but I don't accept if anybody says this is what Prabhupada wanted or whatever. Beyond that, I'm nobody's guru. They are welcome. Maybe Prabhupada came and talked to them, and they are welcome to do that. So I don't know about that. I would not want to do that myself, is all I can say. And I don't have any disciples, so I don't have to guide anyone, luckily. So I have no obligation to say that to others I would tell or not. I will never do it. And there are few disciples I have who are my children. They are God-given disciples. Guru, parent is considered guru. So they are my two disciples. Wife is considered half disciple. So maybe she accepts also as half guru. So to these 2.5 people, I will never tell.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you so much.
Okay. What I also wanted to say one more thing is that again, since we are on this point, when Srila Prabhupada in the 1970s, he was doing morning walks or room conversations, they were being recorded on the tape, and or letters that he was handwriting with his own hands with ink pen, or dictating the letters which others were writing with ink and pen. There was no internet, let alone internet. There were no computers. I work in Intel, so I know the history of computers. At that time, only there were calculators. That was the maximum that was there. And nobody had any idea that there will be a computer, that these recorded conversations will be, put up on a fingertips of everyone in the whole world. With one Control F search operation, you can search anything and everything you want. That was never known. I don't know if Prabhupada knew that he would have let it to be recorded. The recording was done primarily because within the devotees, because only few select devotees could go on morning walk. Nobody wanted like 100 devotees to follow Prabhupada on morning walk and make morning walk a pandal program to go with loudspeaker. That is no morning walk. Morning walk is supposed to be quiet. So they were recording it and then they were sending the tapes to the other centers so that everybody can have the benefit, because Prabhupada's words are so cherished and so valuable. So it was meant for the devotees to consume who have the proper background and the proper understanding of the context. And now we have made it all public, completely public, on the internet, on a computer. And you cannot say Prabhupada sanctioned it, because there were no computers, or there was no even conception that it is possible something like this will be possible. By 1977, there were no computers, there were no silicon, there was of a computer level or this interconnected world. And on a search of a button, you can do all this. So anybody says Prabhupada said that put it on the internet is just grammatically wrong. There was no internet, there was no computers, there was no connected information database. So yeah, I have my own reservations on whether Srila Prabhupada would have wanted his private conversations and letters to be made so public. Rest is, we can talk, again, I don't know whose decision it was. And to a certain extent, it is very good, but there is always double-edged sword. A knife can be used either way, to save a life or to take a life. So people use Prabhupada's words in 99% very nicely for their own benefit. But there are some who may use, oh, see, Prabhupada said. This whole thing of Prabhupada said is a very dangerous thing. You can pretty much find anything, any point you want to justify and say Prabhupada said. I have myself done that. One day I can argue Prabhupada said, or if I want to argue X, I can find few things which Prabhupada said. And if I want to argue on the opposite side, I can also find out, which is basically taking out of context what Prabhupada said. So Prabhupada was always consistent. It is not that he is confused, but when we take things out of context, his private conversations, we can convert the meaning from 0 to 180 degrees. So I just wanted to say all this just to make sure that we are clear on this point. At least my thinking I can share with you on these points. Rest, you are in good hands and you can get guidance. All right, Krishna Murari Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the understanding. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay. All right, Sai Anand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. So I had a question regarding the previous point you made about PhD professors. So, like, we have various modes of worship, such as deity worship and chanting. And you said we can choose our PhD professor, but also choose to listen to others as well. So, let's say I have an inclination towards one mode of worship. Like, for example, I just like reading books, or maybe deity worship. Maybe deity worship doesn't come naturally to me, but chanting does, and that also chanting only in my mind.
Mhm.
So, is it okay to have such personal forms of worship? And also, is it okay to go choose a guru who is inclined towards or encouraging of that form of worship?
Absolutely. Not only it is, what did you say? Is it okay to? It's not only okay, it is strongly advised. Same thing, if you want to do PhD in physics, you should find a physics professor. Why would you go looking for a chemistry professor? In the same way, if you are interested in Srimad Bhagavatam, you should look for a guru. And Sri Rupa Goswami has given 64 limbs of bhakti, out of which 5 are most prominent, and it's not just one. So yes, whichever limb of bhakti, whether it is reading Srimad Bhagavatam or doing Hari Nam Kirtan, or it is any deity worship, Archanam, and Paricharya, etc., you can approach such a person who will be properly able to not only guide you in the process, but inspire you further as well. Guidance with pure devotees, they can guide you in many areas because they are just so expert. But next level is inspiration. So because they spend all their time doing that limb of bhakti, you will look at them, you will see them, while even like walking, showering, sleeping. There was this very nice video of Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. He was in his sleep doing deity worship. So it is like massive, massive amounts of inspiration that you can get from, and you can then say, oh, he's my guru, and there's special connection. So you get more inspired by that. So yes, if you have the fortune of having to select a guru, if you know that you are interested in a specific limb of bhakti, try to find a guru that is known as sajatiya. So there are three categories of three things: sajatiya, snigdha, and satovare. So sajatiya means try to, who is sajatiya, who is of the same like-mindedness. So yeah, otherwise, some guru is just interested in, Harinam Sankirtan, and you want to sit in a corner and read Bhagavatam, and his classes are all about how you should go out in the street and do Sankirtan. There will be a mismatch. So, and that's fine. Many people may not have that option or opportunity, and etc., etc. But no guru will force that upon you, that no, you must do only this. Other limbs are less powerful. Then you can show shastra and ask a question. But Rupa Goswami has said all these five are equally potent, and you are saying one of them is better than the other and all that. How does it reconcile? And then we can, yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Shweta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. My question could be basic question or it could be something that I might have missed till now in the class, or maybe it's coming up next.
Okay, please ask, and I would like you all to ask questions in the class. In the last
Okay.
some devotees came up and asked me questions privately and told me, I was thinking whether to ask in the class, but I just shied away and didn't ask. Can I ask privately? I said, yes, sure. But after listening to the question, I told them, or even thought in my mind that, yeah, it would have been better if they asked it, because then everybody could benefit. So yes,
Okay.
please ask. All questions are good, basic or advanced.
Okay, thank you. So, why is this chapter number 2 named as Contents of Gita Summarized? Because we usually summaries usually come at the end. So this is the very second chapter.
Because, okay, so why? Because people may not go past second chapter. You will see. Today there are 64 people or 71 people joined. First class, I think 90 people joined. And very soon, by the time we are on 10th chapter, you will see 35 people joining, 30 people joining. By the time we end, we may have 20 people. So just like, so Srila Prabhupada also, he was in a hurry to write Krishna book and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And, he didn't know whether he will be able to complete 10th canto, which is the Samam Bonam, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was in such a hurry, and Srimad Bhagavatam, the way he was writing was very rigorous. It was almost like a scholarly work, word meaning, translation. It was like a very rigorous work. So he wanted to present 10th canto very quickly. So he wrote Krishna book first, because he didn't know that when his time will be up. And similarly, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he wrote before he published the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So similarly, Lord Krishna, of course, his time will never be up, but our time could be up. And not only in terms of our life, but our interest in Bhagavad Gita. So we don't know how many of you will switch off after the first few weeks. So Lord Krishna is hoping that you will at least hear the second chapter before you drop out. So that is the reason, honestly.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji.
And Srila Prabhupada is so merciful that even in the purports of first chapter, which have nothing to do with the Bhagavan Krishna, Srila Prabhupada has inserted all the knowledge even in first chapter, even though it has very little to do. Sometimes I wonder why Srila Prabhupada writing like that. Even in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, he has given the whole knowledge. that is simply his mercy and his kindness that he is giving us all the things, because we may not go past the page 50th page or 100th page.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Krishna has also similar thinking. Yes.
Okay,
Plus,
got
like we discussed in the beginning of today's class, large part of second chapter is about Sankhya and about Vishaya, about sense objects, and that is a foundational topic for all the subsequent chapters. So most of it is in sequence and builds on it. Later chapters will build on the second chapter, but in a very essence, all the points of the Bhagavad Gita are covered in second chapter, which gives chance to commentators, acharyas, and acharyas are commentators, like Srila Prabhupada, to write commentaries which explain all the basic knowledge for those who may lose interest later.
okay. Mhm.
Is it
Thank
a
you. Yes, that was helpful.
yes, Krishna Murari Prabhuji? You have another question?
Yes, Prabhuji, just a follow-up question, because I was just thinking on these two questions, and you said better to ask questions in class rather than afterwards. So, Prabhuji, now Yudhishthir gambled his wife because he had to follow the dharma which Dhritarashtra gave, that he had to continue playing. He didn't want to do this, and he again and again was saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. But at the same time, he did it, and that caused difficulty to his wife, his brothers, and his
Right.
praja
Yes.
also. So now my question is this: again, he has done adharma. Somebody at the level of Yudhishthir, not a normal person. He has some like Yudhishthir, the best one possible on planet Earth. He has done adharma to his wife, to his brothers, or he hasn't.
No, he has not.
By doing it.
He
Oh
has-
wow!
So again, this is a huge topic about
Okay,
especially his wife.
okay.
That discussion will then further clarify about his brothers, which were put on the bet before. But in the Mahabharata, there are few chapters on this whole discussion, whether it was allowed to put his wife on the bet. And Draupadi goes and asks. First, she lashes, or what you can say, lathar diya, kya bolte hain usko English mein, huh? Rips off Yudhishthir. How the hell you can do that? And so first she gives Yudhishthir a piece of her mind when she is dragged into the courtroom. And then she asks, is it even allowed? In like cricket, you may be bowled, but you are arguing whether it was a no ball. If it is declared a no ball, then the fact that you got out or caught will be that decision will be reversed. So she goes and asks, is it even allowed to put me on the bet? And there's a huge debate that happens, and ultimately it is concluded that yes, it is, as per the law, it is correct, you can, even though he had lost everything, he lost himself. How can a person who has lost himself put anything else, or even continue playing? For that matter, the match should have ended there. So there is a long discussion. I'm not expert, and all today's laws and the laws at that time don't match. So all this is there, and big analysis is there in Mahabharata. So not only point I'm saying is, it's not just you who has the question. Even Draupadi had the question, and it was thoroughly clarified in Mahabharata. So today's laws are not the same, so we may have a hard time to understand. Especially another topic which is like this is, how can she have 5 husbands? This is also many people cannot digest. In today's world, it is not there. A man may have multiple wives today. That is allowed in one particular religion, for example. But so we have some, experience or some acceptance of that. But other way around, we don't see it. And there's a huge discussion when Mother Kunti says that, you can be shared. So uh, uh, how is it, even she gets shocked? How can I accept 5 husbands? I didn't sign up for 5 husbands. I signed up for one. And a whole dharmic discussion occurs in Mahabharata, and you can read it. I have read it. I heard it. I got a headache. I couldn't understand the whole details, but I can just let you know it is there. And if one is interested, one can dive into it.
Can I ask one more, if you don't mind, if you don't get offended? Can I ask one more question, if you permit me?
Also, yes, good questions, but also let's try to stay on topic of second chapter. But
Perfect.
go ask your question. I may say that we can discuss this fine.
No problem. So, Prabhuji, now because Vedvyas agreed to it, that marriage became bona fide. So, can a guru agree to something which is not religious and then it can be considered sanctioned? Because Vedvyas agrees to that 5 marriage.
They're called acharyas. Acharyas can start new practices, but not every guru is an acharya. Every acharya is a guru, but every guru is not an acharya. Now, how one becomes acharya and who gets that power or empowerment, that is another different topic. But like Srila Prabhupada, he said 16 rounds of chanting. So, he brought it down. So one can say, or he allowed women to do deity worship on the altar. And he got so much criticism from other people that how can he allow women to do, on the temple altar to do. And he gave some shastric examples. Another thing is, giving initiation to people who are born outside of India. And I have read Chaitanya Charitamrita. There, Lord Chaitanya and his devotees are initiating Muslims. They are clearly, kind of, should. So Srila Prabhupada substantiated, or in certain, so he was Acharya and he's empowered. But Guru, one cannot just generalize that and say that, I can invent my own. I have not heard. I would, if somebody says that like that in today's world, that would be a red flag.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the crisp understanding. Thank you so much.
Okay. So now we will move forward. Very nice Q&A session. Let us spend some more time. So Shweta Mataji, did you have another question, or was it the hand raised from before?
Oh, sorry, Prabhuji, I forgot to put it down.
Yeah, you can lower your hand. Okay. Did you have another question, Krishna Murari Prabhu, or you can lower your hand? Okay, I'll lower it for you. If you have another question, you can raise it again. All right. So good discussion on Guru. So I think we thoroughly discussed the concept of Guru. So 2.7 and 2.8. Okay. So I will. So the spiritual solution. So we'll go into the spiritual solution and we'll start next time, I think, on the details. But the spiritual solution is to, now we talked about the concept of identity. And I will cover this quickly because it's time to end. But here is what we will discuss in detail next time. And that identity is nothing but another name for that is ahankar. That is the identity. English name, we call it identity. Sanskrit is ahankar. So that is the identity. And there is a identity. So identity is not that we have to remove the identity or wipe off the identity and become identity-less. That is not the spiritual understanding or the spiritual progress. The spiritual progress is to realize or to find out our true identity. And that is why Srila Prabhupada gives the name false ego or false identity, because identity has to be there. Ego and identity kind of go together. So false identity or false ego, and then true identity or svarupa. That is the Sanskrit word, or true ego, you can say. So there is a true identity of every jiva. And the true identity primarily in essence is to serve Shri Krishna. In Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jivera Swarupa Hoye Nityera Krishna Das, or Krishnera Nitya Das. What is that? So eternally to serve Krishna is our true identity, and it can manifest in many ways. Madhurya, Vatsalya, Sakhya, Dasya, etc. But ultimately, everybody is serving Krishna in their own ways. Even Mother Yashoda is serving Krishna, even though she is a parent, in the parental mood. So many devotees, just like Devaki and Vasudev, they prayed for many, many years to get Krishna as their child. So why would you pray? Praying is a mood of service or, seva. So seva to child, some people may think they don't fit together, but that is the one way of service too. So that is the swarupa. But I will leave with this point that bodily identity, here is where he was attached to, Arjuna was attached to Bhishma and Drona. And Bhishma, at a certain level, they were both devotees, Bhishma and Drona, but at a certain level, they are having a certain body. So attachment to the body is one thing. But one must realize that after death, they will not have that body. They will have some other body. So that attachment is temporary. A very strong way in which this was conveyed is through this very beautiful conversation between Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who is the guru of Srila Prabhupada, and Subhash Chandra Bose. You all know Subhash Chandra Bose, great freedom fighter. So he one time went to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who was trying to run his little mutt, or you can say temple, with few brahmacharis. And they were like, living on bhiksha by begging. So they were very like, undernourished. And these were the 1930s or early 40s. There was famine, there was all these things in Bengal and everything. So there was not much food, and, there was, so there was all this. So he came to Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj and said that, I need your men, because Subhash Chandra Bose was looking for everyone whom he could get to join the army. So Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was not very inclined towards that. So he, said to Subhash Chandra Bose that, this whole game that you are playing, not like a game, but this whole thing that is there is at a bodily level. So Subhash Chandra Bose got little offended that, what do you mean? I'm fighting for Indian independence, and there's a good cause. I'm not saying that it should not be done, but he was just trying to say that there is a higher standard of thinking. There's a higher bar. You are already at a very high bar to think about national identity and freedom, but yet it is at a bodily level. And then he said, I don't understand. What do you mean? Because he was in that identity, I am a freedom fighter. It's a very straightforward thing. Subhash Chandra Bose has himself read Bhagavad Gita many times, but the identity takes over. I am freedom fighter. And then those words were not making sense. Then he said, okay, today you want to kill the British people. So let's take you are trying to recruit my men to go kill another British man. If after dying, that British man, next birth, takes birth as an Indian, would you still want to kill him? Or these Indians who recruit, if they get killed, whom you love, and next birth they are born as a Britisher, would you have the same love for them? So your love or your hatred is based on their present body, and present body is temporary. So you are loving the temporary, loving or hating the temporary. And what I am trying to do, I am also fighting for independence, but I am trying to fight for independence from the cycle of birth and death. So we are both trying to fight for independence. You are fighting for one kind of independence. I am also fighting for another kind of independence. So let me fight my fight and you fight your fight. And Subhash Chandra Bose was heavily impacted by that statement and he left without saying anything. So he was very, very inspired and impacted. But of course, he had his own path, his own inspiration. So it's not like he gave it up, but he clearly understood. So in the same way, Arjuna's attachment is to the bodily Bhishma. If after death, let us say, Bhishma will not get reincarnated because he's going to get moksha, but after death, if he gets reincarnated and becomes born as a Pandava, would he still want to fight him? Or if Duryodhana, after getting killed, becomes one of the dynasty of Pandavas, would he love him or hate him? So all this thing is coming from a bodily level. And that is why right after these verses, Lord Krishna goes into the science of the soul to show the larger picture, that all these that you are loving, hating, these are my friends, these are my teachers, my grandfather, is all on the basis of just this life. It's very, very temporary. So in that mood, Krishna begins to have the conversation. So I will stop here. It's 8:05 right now. And are there any yeah, I could not cover what I wanted to, but that's fine. We had wonderful question answers and a lot of churning, and that's exactly the intent. So that's perfect. And we will continue from where we left off. Next Friday we have class next Friday. Also, this Monday, please don't forget, what is this Monday? Sri Krishna Janmashtami. So the birth of Lord Krishna. So for all devotees of Lord Krishna, that is the biggest festival of the year. So please participate in your temple, whichever is your closest temple. Please go and do some seva. And if you don't have a temple close to you or you cannot go, read Bhagavad Gita. And you can ask any author. The best way to please an author is to read his book. Okay, whether you buy it or read it from library or whatever, doesn't matter. If he's not writing to get money, the primary mood of a writer is to share his thoughts. So Krishna also is an author, and he would also love it if we read the Bhagavad Gita. So that way you can serve Krishna at least by reading Bhagavad Gita. If not, if possible, please go and serve in your temple in any small way and take part in the celebrations. One of the limbs of bhakti, which Rupa Goswami describes, is to serve, is to celebrate these festivals, major festivals of Lord. And he clearly calls out Janmashtami as one of them, with as much vigor and enthusiasm as possible. So that is a limb of bhakti. I have heard, oh, you spent so much money on Janmashtami and this, and why cannot you donate the money to a hospital? Yes, like that, we should only be doing hospital building. We should stop doing all other things. So that is not a good argument. We should build hospitals also, but we should also celebrate Lord's festivals. It's not to be considered a waste. On the contrary, it is a very nice and recommended limb of bhakti. All right. So Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahotsav ki jai. Okay. So thank you very much. We will see you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much,
Thank you so
Prabhuji.
much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.